pleasure and honor to be speaking here with you today. So I'm a real estate developer from the Netherlands, which by judging from the questions that were on the last panel discussion, I might think twice about disclosing in public over here. But it's a pleasure for me to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing and what we're up to and how we've, over the last 10 years, been implementing the circular economy in our projects. We got to know William McDonough in 2006, and in the last 10 years, we've developed now over 1 million square meters of real estate, specifically from the principles of cradle-to-cradle in the circular economy. And I can tell you it's the most profitable stock in our portfolio, so it really does make very good business sense to be doing this, and that's what I'll go talk to you about today. So what we specialize in is primarily large-scale area transformations, and the one that I'll tell you at the very end is about 3.5 square kilometers. The one that I'll tell you in the beginning, it's about 5.5 hectares. So what we're actually doing is really building systems. We're actually building communities. And so if we look at kind of where we want to start with this, our always starting point needs to be from our intentions. So what are our intentions as people, as communities? Not just developers, which is looking at the bottom line, but what is it that we actually want to create for our community? And so in talking about these systems, we see that design is important. And if we look at how we design these systems, that the outcome, whether it's supposed to be that way or unintentionally, every system is really perfectly designed to achieve the outcome it does. So if I then put these two pictures up in front of you and I said, hey, pick one, which would you like? Nobody in their sane mind would say, I want to go for the kids picking rare earth metals out of computer parts and fishing plastic out of the sea and having toxic air quality in their inner cities. No, everybody says we want to do the top. So how are we designing our systems, and what are our intentions? Are our intentions to be the top? Yes, I think we are, but I think that our intentions now are a bit mismatched with what our design actually is. Because if I look at the next one, then I can say, okay, how are we doing? And I first want to say that there are some really fantastic things going on. We saw a number of them today. I think that we see that better healthcare is really bringing the average life expectancy up. I'm really very, very optimistic about what I see Dean Kamen and his team doing to promote water, access to clean drinking water in developing countries. And COP21 was a huge step in the right direction. So, okay. If we look at this on kind of a global scale of what we're looking at now, we still have a number of huge, significant challenges, and our system is designed us to go into this direction. So, this is one of my favorite authors, and I think that he has a very appropriate quote here, and it's what is really our intention here. So, I think that right now this is an indication that our system on a global system scale is a signal of design failure. So we really need to go back and look at how we're designing these systems. And as a result, we come up with topics and quotes like this one, which to me is actually quite detrimental to my business. I'm not a supporter of a quote like this, but I can understand why people say this. It's because we've not designed buildings and communities and systems, real estate systems, to be positive contributions to the environment and to our societies. If I'm doing my job right, my buildings should produce more clean, renewable energy than they consume. I say clean, so burning's not an option. Our drinking water that exits the building should be cleaner than the drinking water that comes in. And when we take apart our buildings and deliver them back, what we deliver back to our communities is healthy, safe topsoil in better conditions than we took it at for farmland. That is our design intention at the Delta Development Group. And this is what we've been actively trying to do and doing for the last decade now. The park I'll tell you about first is Park 2020. You can see it here. It's about 92,000 square meters of built space located by Amsterdam's airport. It's a public open space. I welcome any of you that are passing through Holland and Amsterdam to come visit me over there. It's set up by 3 primary partners. That's us, that's Holland's second largest construction company called Volker Wessels, and a private equity firm called the Regenboor Group, and we all have put our money into this. A couple of housekeeping facts. The money there is about $350 million. It's taken to put this thing together. It's 92,000 square meters of workspace. It's a full-service park, so there's amenities in there as well, lots of hotel, and we've actually built the entire design principles based on the cradle-to-cradle. William McDonough is the master planner. He's the architect of every building that we've done, and he works with us on a number of projects across the EU. And we elected to put the cradle-to-cradle in place because we do see this as the design principle of the circular economy. It's almost the Intel inside. There's a number of great examples over there of how this is really getting done. So here are a few pictures of our park that we're building. This is not sketch design. These are actually real buildings here. This is the inside of Bosch Siemens, a huge lung in the atrium. You can see here that those are solar panels on the top, building integrated photovoltaics that we're doubling as the sunscreens in the large atrium. This large lung is a major part of the HVAC systems where every morning the employees of Bosch Siemens come in with fresh, clean air because we filtered out all of the air through the central atrium every night. This is ahead of the Players Union for professional football players, that's soccer players. What we're seeing here is that our sites and our buildings are deeply integrated with each other. The facade of this building has been designed completely to be taken apart. It's all a click system of tiles, ceramic tiles, and those tiles can actually go back safely to Mosa, Royal Mosa tiles when they're done. The inside of the Players Union is completely focused on health, and I would 100% support that we are in the people business. We just happen to build buildings. That it has to all be about the people, healthy, safe communities for the residents and occupants of our buildings here. And this is one, now we have the entire land position on the 5.5 hectares. We're about 50% done right now. And so as an option, we have to pay the municipality every year for the right to carry that land. And we do so in terms of taxes, so on and so forth. So we went into negotiations with them and we actually said, hey, can we take the money that we're going to give you for the land and instead reinvest it into creating some community practices. And so we went with an organization called the Vlinderstichting. It's the Netherlands. That means the Butterfly Association. Even the butterflies have their own association in my country. And what we found was that there were actually 3 critically endangered species of butterfly to the Haarlemmermeer. So what we did here was we built our entire park over here, which is a huge breeding ground for these critically endangered species of butterfly. You might have noticed that we had an award for the American Association for Landscape Architects. We actually scrapped that landscaping package and re-implemented an entire landscaping package for breeding grounds and targets for these butterflies. And now we have a program going with the local elementary schools where they're learning about these butterflies and visiting our park. It's really fantastic. And on the other side of the greenhouse there, that is an actively working greenhouse. This is Hans. He's our local farmer. And we also took the money and we put it into a social farm. And the farm grows all of the food that actually goes into our restaurant every day. And we works together with Chef Nico to actually design the menus. It's a seasonal menu. It's also a working program for people with slight handicaps that have trouble getting work. For refugees are also working at this park. For people, elderly people that are moving into senior centers and have lost their garden, they can come and work here as well too. And we pay all of these people. It costs us about 50 grand a year, but it's not about the money. It's about really creating community here, and this is one of the most important aspects of our park. This is our latest the latest building we just delivered. It is a sketch work. It's called Plantronics. It's a real leap forward in our active working communities and how we're actually using the building as a tool for corporate performance. And this is a beautiful building that's in construction right now. It's called the Now Building, and this whole ceramic facade is covered with a coating that's actually a binding catalyst to remove CO2 out of the air. But this is also one that I'm quite proud of because, you know, we have to sit here. I work for a for-profit NGO, and so I'm here. Actually, profit is not a dirty word. It's about how you go about doing it. And so what I'm really happy about is that our projects, the first question I get is how much more expensive is it to build these types of buildings? Well, actually, we're 1.4% under budget. Our rents right now are outperforming the market by about 15 to 30%. Our exit yields are about 40 to 80 basis points outperforming the market. One that I'm particularly proud of is a 95% user satisfaction rate. The project is about to last 10 years, and our equity investors asked for a 10% return on investment. We're actually right now delivering over 13. So it is a highly profitable project, and I say this because I don't run my business on ideology, and if you do so, you can quickly go out of business. This is a very dangerous thing to get into if you're in the private atmosphere. So from the day one, we always said we wanted to use our business as a catalyst to create that type of change that we want to see. It also promotes the dialogue because we can stick a bunch of money into monuments, put something forward, and everybody gives us a slow clap, and then back to business as usual. So if we really want to create systemic change, we have to do so through the system, not pushing against it. But where do you start? So we started here. We picked 4 areas: water, energy, materials, and biodiversity. Our closed-loop system, they're all integrated through the site. We have a canal. We're Dutch, so that's how we do it. And through our canal, we actually are filtering all of our gray water through reed systems. Those go then back into the buildings. Our energy system is also all centralized. Our buildings are sharing energy loads across each other. There's not a single gas line at the park. We simply removed that opportunity from future investors. Everything is through electricity, and I am proud to say today that at this point we are producing more clean renewable energy than we are consuming, and that's a feat, I can tell you. Our master plan is all about integrated parks and moving people not a day away from their families, but a day with their colleagues. And we are, right now to date, the largest purchaser and supporter of cradle-to-cradle certified materials in the world, and that's something that we work very, very hard at. And we partner a lot with these companies as well. These are materials designed to be healthy, safe, made with clean renewable energy, that have a clear water footprint, and that don't use any social unfair practices to make them. And of course, I don't know everything about materials, so I keep chemists on retainer, and I pay them to tell me for things that I don't know. So, and they give me a nice little red, yellow, green stoplight thing. Red, bad, don't use that. So people even like me can implement these types of things into the project. And so we partnered with a lot of these companies right here because this is where the real innovation lies. Somebody like Shaw or Desso know more about flooring than I could ever hope to know, and so we actually put them in front of the general contractor, and we moved the whole supply chain up into the innovation program in the beginning. And in this way, we removed the zero-sum game where people are actually trying to negotiate with each other and not really getting innovation into the project. And then we identify those in sketch design. We also identify what potential problem areas are. And the last one about Park 2020 is our buildings are actually designed already from day one to be the future materials banks of our communities. They're designed 100% to be disassembled from the day that we start designing them. We're actually designing them to be taken apart, not to go together. And in that way, you inherently answer the question of how it should come together. You're only able now to take it one step further. We are mapping, actually, all of our buildings are designed to be housing. They're offices, but we designed them to be housing so they can easily be transformed into housing should the office market erode in this area in the future, and we can quickly and cost-effectively change them out there to make a new play on the market. And at the end of the use period, we should be bringing these materials back to create the new stock. We track our materials through our BIM models, so we've created technology within our BIM models that say that this is how much steel is in the building, this is where it's at, this is the grade, this is where it goes together, this is how it come apart. So we have a whole bill of materials over time that a deconstruction company can actually look at and say, okay, this is where I go get that valuable stuff, and we go take it apart. And we've actually included a new model now that we're took a long time to get together, but we actually don't buy elevators anymore. We do this on a number of ways, but the elevator is the most practical. We lease vertical transport in the building. So we've actually now gone into discussions of ownership versus use. So no longer do we buy elevators, we simply lease vertical transport. And so let me step back and set the context of where this whole thing takes place. And the Netherlands is a pretty interesting place, actually. And it's greatly defined by our culture of sweet and salt. And this is sweet water, salt water. And primarily this is about how the Dutch have really managed the water to keep our feet dry. But it has another connotation itself too. And so the Dutch have always been explorers. And so that's our saltwater mentality, that we're greater than our borders, that we're always going above and beyond from what our culture is and trying to find new things. And our sweet water is about a situation called polderen. So our whole, these are the Dutch landscapes that everybody recognizes. These are actually pumped lakes. So the idea of polderen is that, let's say you have two farmers that live next door to each other. Even if they hate each other, they need to work together to keep both of their farms out of water. And so collaboration is something that's very deeply ingrained in the mentality of the Dutch. You see that come through. The latest global competitive index from the World Economic Forum places us at the 5th spot. Bloomberg lists us in Europe as the number 3 spot to do business. And actually one of, from the IMD competitive yearbook, we're actually ranked as the 4th leading country to be open to foreign ideas. And so in 2015, when the Dutch were the president or the vice president of the Euro Commission, we introduced the Circular Economy Package. And this was pretty big when Franz Timmermans did this. Some of the results have been huge. So we now have 650 million euros flowing into funding, another 5.5 billion under structural funds, and we set a huge number of targets right here that you see are quite ambitious over how we want to approach waste across the whole EU. And we see that a lot of businesses are really on board. So I would say that it's up to policy to send a signal and allow business to really do its thing. And we see a lot of the banks on board too, and the large pension funds. This is another thing the Dutch do very, very well. We have the largest pension funds in the world. Here are two of them, ABP and PGGM. And ABP is the pension for all of the government, and PGGM is also the largest pension funds, and they're already investing in the circular economy. In fact, they're looking for real impact investment right now, and it's actually too small. One of our larger banks, ABN AMRO, has put a policy in place to provide 100% financing for the retrofitting of buildings to bring down their energy labels as well. TU Delft has a MOOC. The new one's about to start November 8th. It's free, sign up, it's in English, and that will teach you about the circular economy. Last time they had about 1,000 people sign up for this, 7 weeks. So if you're interested in learning more about the circular economy, this is a great place to do it. And one that we're pretty proud of, that we're involved in, is called the Green Deals for Circular Buildings. 40 companies, including ours, signed up for this, we're here to work together to improve circularity within the built environment. So you see a lot of collaboration. Also, one of our biggest competitor is also part of the Green Deal, and the two of us are working together to build innovations in terms of circular design practices. But we really need examples, and that's where we can step up. We're practical people. We're practical as an industry, so we really want to get down, roll our sleeves up, and build buildings. That's really what we do best, not sit and talk and debate and all of that. It's important, but we really want to get into the action. So something that we're doing now is the next project. It's called it's called the Valley. It's Netherlands' national showcase project for the circular economy. And to set the context of that, really, does anybody know what this is right here? Shout it out if you know it. It's the internet. This is the mapping of the global internet. And so this really shows us how complex our world has become today. It's incredible. And more so than ever, our world is also changing at faster paces than we've ever seen before. I mean, it is really quick. And not only that, but it's hyper-competitive. So it's complex, it's quick, and it's hyper-competitive. What an atmosphere to do business in. So this was really our design brief when we started getting going. What is needed to create a place that engages business to continuously challenge the status quo and generate circular, innovative, and scalable solutions to increasingly complex problems? That was really our design brief. This is how easy it gets when we start building communities. And the first was to enter into systems thinking. That was crucial for the complexity. The second was collaboration, because innovation in a vacuum now is almost impossible, because by the time you get everything set up, you go and the market's already changed. We need to collaborate, and this is one of the greatest examples that we've really looked to on how did we end up doing CERN. And the last is through a lot of real creativity and just use your brain power, mix it with some common sense every once in a while, by the way, and let's really get going and use this in our project. So this is the Valley that I'm going to show you, and it's an exciting project. I'm really happy to share it with you here today, and it's really an example project. This is the total 3.5 square kilometers. The spine down the middle is called the Valley, and that's creating 20,000 new jobs in the Haarlemmermeer. One whole side of the park is dedicated to growing bio-based feedstock that will go into biopolymers and help to feed the biological revolution. The second and the top part is called the Technosphere, and this is the area where we're also putting plants, remanufacturing, repolymerization of textiles, because we're now mixing plastic with fiber, and areas where we're actually starting to bring all of these things back into industry and make new products. Of course, we had to make some choices, so in the Valley we started focusing on chemicals, glass, plastic, metals, minerals, food and agriculture, paper and wood, and textiles, and these are our real focus areas right now. The Valley is at human scale. We're modeling the Dutch farm, and we're embedding it deep into the landscape, because this is all about creating human connectivity, and it's creating interlinkages between businesses and traditionally competitive groups. So it works on 3 different areas. It works about creation, the habitat, and then the services we're going to provide. And I'm not going to go through this entire slide, but the thing that I want to drive home is that nobody rents square meters in the Valley anymore. What we do is rent workstations. And when you're working in the Valley, you're working together at your desk here with 4 or 5 of your colleagues. Government people are working right next to you. Schools and universities, your competitor might be working across from you. And it's a really open source collaboration area where we're working on solving circular problems. And we think about the hardware, the software, and the smartware. And this is the business model, and this is quite radical in my industry that I'm going to show you now. So what we've done is to work to strike contracts with large groups of people in the companies over here. We have the land, the infrastructure, the core and shell of the buildings, the installations, the interior, the furniture, and the services. These companies maintain ownership of all of these things. We close contracts with them to do this at a fixed service guarantee that they are going to provide us a level of quality for a given amount of time, and then we pass that along to the tenants, the people, and I mean tenants that are working the rents, the workstations. That comes into the form of an all-in rent, and what ends up happening when you engage in this type of model, you're incentivizing the financing costs to come down, the maintenance costs to come down, and the residual value of these materials to improve. And the reason you're doing that is because the result of this is that the fixed service guarantee for us goes down, that creates a better margin, and we can then pass along to the tenants. And the whole reason that this works is because it stimulates increased quality by putting ownership to where it belongs. So the key elements here are these 3 areas, and in terms of the systems thinking, again, the circular economy is the system in which we're looking to create and build. We also look at sustainability from a systemic approach, trying to find the linkages between all of the different influencers. You cannot look at anything in its one vacuum anymore. Of course, we've also created a huge number of businesses around us, and this is really interesting because these are all the companies providing circular solutions right now. So this is really the supply side of the equation. Now what we needed to also do was book the demand side. And so we went to Amsterdam, the airport, Schiphol, Haarlemmermeer, Hoofddorp, and we said, okay, you all are purchasing and tendering out, like we just heard from government purchasing and tendering. Commit at least 2% of that into circular purchasing, and what we've done now is create over $2 billion annually of revenues to come in. And now people are bidding on that. One of them is that the airport of Schiphol has committed to do the entire interiors of the whole airport in circular economy. That's landed in the Valley, and now we're linking all of these companies on. And this, what we're showing here, is we're mapping out all of the different elements of the interior. These are the collaborative network that's making the project a reality. And you can see here we're partnering with Ellen. We've been a member of Ellen's CE100 team for a number of years. Bill, a number of key players in the area. And we're also collaborating with other initiatives across the country. The Port of Rotterdam, the Vestas, Amsterdam as a city, Schiphol, all of us are collaborating around these types of projects. And the last part is the physical lab space. So the temporary use of the sites, all of our sites are all about innovation as well. So today maybe they're on agro, tomorrow they may be on metals, the day after that they're maybe on chemicals, and I don't mean each day. Think about in times of 10 years, 15 years, but we can start working on different solutions here. So it's all about flexible function also within the sites themselves. And then the buildings themselves are really this platform for building innovation and stimulating a transition to the circular economy. We do a number of modular buildings right here. You see an entire wood construction. The skin of the building is then put back on with solar panels. I've already been tweeting that first keynote speaker, trying to get in touch with her to talk about the skin that she's talking about today. I really want to start exploring that opportunity in terms of these types of buildings here. That's a fantastic idea. And then this is all about providing modularity. Again, we have been doing this for a number of years already within our organization as well. So it's about human-centered connectivity. And so we have these connection points to the main plazas, and the plazas are looking like this. They're experimentation squares and innovation squares. And then we bring all the people together. And then from there, we kind of work this hub and spoke. So that's your main innovation square. And then this building is all about communication. That one's about collaboration. This one's about contemplation. And that one's about concentration. And then people can move to different workstations for the type of work that they want to engage in. And that permits that connectivity also between the buildings. And this is what we're really looking to do. An interesting question is, how do you plan for serendipity? So the people are bumping into each other and new ideas are really cross-pollinating across from industries. And then, of course, on the top, we need to lay this entire digital infrastructure so that people are really meeting each other. Think about a very sophisticated bulletin board in your local supermarket where you don't have to pull the thing that says, I want guitar lessons, but you can say, hey, Schiphol can jump in and say, hey, I've got 60,000 pieces of clothing that I need, and I want this done in a circular way, and people can link on and say, I've got jeans, I've got dyes, I've got buttons, and they can all start co-creating in this digital space as well. And we've done that together with IBM. Again, get people that are smarter than you and empower them. So this is my project. This is what we're working on. This is not just mine, but our entire team. It takes a lot to pull this together. And thank you for your time and attention.